Well, people in our Instagram comments today sure have said that, huh?
Yeah, well,
like I will say,
do people miss strikeouts?
I will say,
I miss strikeouts, Lyle. I missed sitting here and complaining about too many strikeouts. The names have just changed.
So we put out a reaction video to the series today, which we want to do more of this year throughout series and throughout the year to just do some more kind of our own versions of game recaps, but in the social media setting of it that can make it a little more fun and a little more entertaining. For anybody that's watched that is commenting on it in a negative way, watch it again, because all I will say is by no means, I can't even believe we have to say this, are we saying season's over like people in the comments are trying to say. All we said is in the first series of the year, you know what? It would be great if they could strike out just a little bit less. That's all we're saying. They still went 2-2. They still split the series, but we're talking about what they could do better. They could strike out a little bit less.
Yeah, so they could strike out a little bit less, but we also talked about how necessary it is for them to get off to a strong start. And they absolutely still could. But the biggest problem last year that we kept bringing up, it's like anytime a team would come out and throw a bunch of breaking balls, more specifically, a bunch of sweepers, they just junk it up against the Mariners lineup. And they wouldn't be able to do anything. There would be a lack of adjustment. And we heard all spring, it was adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what they didn't really do in the series against the Red Sox? Adjust. At least the results didn't adjust at all. 45 strikeouts and 6 walks in the opening series. Now, I told you, hey, Lyle, they're going to strike out 45 times and walk just 6 times against, what could be a good pitching staff in the Red Sox. It sounds like there are some people high on some of the arms they have, but overall, a pretty mediocre talent pool that they're essentially drawing from, and the Mariners couldn't do anything about it. Couldn't do anything.
Yeah. And again, we've already got a comment in our Instagram reply saying, guys, it's been 4 games, relax. We're not worried. We're really not worried. I don't know how we have to sell you guys on it. We're not. But if we're just talking about the 4 games that have been played so far, takeaways are that is one of the headlines. The main headline, we can talk about a positive too. Starting pitching was awesome. Even though Bryce Miller gave up 4 runs today, the splitter looked deadly. That is a huge sign for moving forward. There is a lot of positive to take away from the first week, but there's also the storyline of there was a lot of strikeouts. That's all we're saying. We think this is a very good team. We think this is a 90-plus win team. But all we're saying is in the first 4 games, there was a lot of strikeouts.
Okay, we'll get to some questions here in a second, but would you say the biggest takeaway from this opening weekend was it more the positive of watching Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, which, oh my God, holy crap, they were good? Or was it the strikeouts?
It has to be the starting pitching. Again, we're the positive podcast. We like to talk about the positives. This team's fun. So, yes, the big takeaway for me is the starting pitching. What did we just talk to Jason Churchill about just a few days ago? He said it would shock me less if Logan Gilbert finished top 3 in Cy Young voting than if Julio finished top 3 in MVP voting. What Church basically said about it was, I think Logan Gilbert's going to have less starts where he goes 4 innings with 3 or 4 earned runs. Not only did Logan Gilbert not go 4 innings with 4 earned runs, he torched the Red Sox the other night. That was, for a first start, you can't ask for much more than that. The splitter looked good. The pitches had life. He had everybody off balance. That was awesome. I figured George Kirby would probably be pretty good. Logan Gilbert going from what looks like a really good pitcher to a great pitcher this year. Awesome.
Dude, his cutter. Did you see I saw someone tweet about the Stuff Plus of that. It was the best of any cutter this weekend. The best one.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable. I will say the eye test backed that up. That thing was popping. You could tell right away. I don't think when Goldie and Blowers, they're trying to sniff it out and they couldn't quite put their finger on it right away. There was a little bit of confusion with it looking like a slider, which is a good thing. It means it's moving a lot. It means he's throwing it hard as well. So that all worked out. But yeah, oh my God, dude. 7 innings in your first start of the season. It doesn't really happen that much anymore. For a lot of guys, especially with the pitch counts a lot of these guys are on. They would be held back a little bit, but not this first weekend. We saw 2 excellent starts. And Bryce was okay today. We saw what the splitter could be, and we saw what the arsenal could be, but some of the command issues were still pretty apparent with Bryce. I mean, the pitches he was leaving up in the strike zone, they were getting hammered. So not the best.
I think Bryce's stuff was what I took away from that start was his stuff was pretty awesome. Again, from what he threw the splitter, looked really good today. He didn't have problems with the splitter. It was just couple elevated fastballs that got hit hard. And honestly, he probably doesn't throw that elevated fastball if the umpire had gotten the call right on the check
Right.
swing, because that changed the entire at bat. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, TJ and I like to complain a lot about umpires. So for those of you who maybe it's your first time, it's probably not. You'll probably hear a lot about that on these live streams this year. And that umpire got the call significantly wrong, changing the at bat. And did it change the entire game outcome? Maybe not, because the Mariners weren't scoring runs, but
Mm-hmm.
it changed Bryce's line for the day, that's for sure. So I think for a first start, even though he gave up 4 runs, there's a lot to like out of Bryce Miller in start one, because if he's got a true swing and miss secondary now, that changes a lot of things for him.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, a very interesting opening comment here on YouTube. Let me try and read this word for word, and we'll work through it. Thank you for Joel for sending this in. We have no offense, no run support. Listening to the broadcast is like rubber necking on the highway when you pass a car accident. We shouldn't be putting this much pressure on our pitchers. Dang, I don't know about the broadcast comment. I wouldn't try and freak out too much yet. Let's give it like, I don't know, till June. And then we can, and then I think we can draw some reasonable concerns about the offense. Which if they do what they did until June last year, then there will be an issue. There will be an absolute issue, and they're gonna have to go out and acquire a bat. They're gonna need to do something. But 4 games, like it was bad, but one good series, and we're not talking about it anymore.
And you say it was bad, they still split the series. Like, they're still 2-2. It wasn't like they got, like, you want to be the Astros right now? The Astros just got dismantled by the Yankees in 4 straight games. Ryan Abreu looked awful the other night. The Mariners aren't in that position. They're 2-2. All right. All right.
Lyle, you need we have a comment here that says you need to be out there. I'm down. I keep saying, like, Lyle can hit the ball.
Similar to what Cal Raleigh said about SOX in one of our social media clips that I guess we haven't posted yet. We'll post it at some point. As soon as I see spin, I'm done. And honestly, as soon as I see velocity, I might be done. I'm getting out there and hitting 96 miles an hour. I have my own personal doubts. I appreciate the confidence to our awesome commenter who sent that. However, I think I would stick out like a sore thumb. Unfortunately, I would love to go out there and hit a bomb at T-Mobile Park. I don't think it's ever happening.
Just get your foot down.
Yeah, there you go.
You got to get your foot down in time. Here's an actual legit question here on Instagram that again, I think we touched on a little bit with Jason Churchill this week, but it's the odds of Logan Gilbert winning the Cy Young this year. Like, so I loved what I saw from Logan Gilbert. It is going to be hard. Like, it's going to be hard for him to jump George Kirby. It's possible, but it's going to be pretty damn hard though. Like, and Castillo too. It is going to be really hard. And we're talking about, he could still be the third best guy. He technically could be the third best guy in the Mariners rotation and still be better than the number ones of like 10 to 15 teams, which is pretty bonkers, which, could land him third in the Cy Young. Technically, Mariners could have 1, 2, and 3. Unlikely, but it could happen. And that speaks volumes to Logan Gilbert, but it'll be difficult. But the stuff we saw was a good start.
Awesome. I feel like that's what's happening. You know what? It's funny you mentioned Luis Castillo. I feel like that's what's happening after these first 4 games, too. Guy has one kind of off start in his first outing of the year on a cold weather night. And because George Kirby and Logan Gilbert pitched so well, people are already talking about like, Castillo's going to be the third guy in the rotation and he's going to get overtaken. Luis Castillo's the ace of this rotation. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed yet, at least. So just because he had one slightly rocky outing does not mean that Luis Castillo is not going to have a really good year.
With Emerson Hancock here, thank you to Kyle for this. Would you entertain trading Castillo for a third baseman? Already we're talking about trading him? Come on. Guys, I love hypotheticals, but that was like an off-season thing. Now that we're in season, no.
Yeah, listen, everybody's just trying to get their thoughts out there, right? I don't want to like belittle anybody or anything. Sure. Yes, that was a talking point at some point, but like there is not a starter behind Hancock who can step in and do anything close to what Luis Castillo could do. It's not going to be anything close to what Logan Gilbert could do. It's not anything close to what Brian Wu and Bryce Miller can do. These starters are their strength, and they have to ride that. If they're going to go get a third baseman, which again, we're already talking about trade hypotheticals before games into the year. But if they're going to do that, I don't think they're trading from their starting rotation. Like, remember all the Isak Paredes discourse? He was talked about a lot in the offseason. We talked about him a lot, but we kind of knew that was going to involve trading one of their starters. I don't think they want to do that. So I don't think they're going to trade a starter. If they go get a third baseman at some point, we'll see. But also, like I said this to you earlier, Josh Rojas looks awesome through the first 4 games. I think, like, I use the word slept on. You don't want to quite use the word slept on. I use that because I feel like with all of the talk around all these different players throughout the offseason, who have we heard about? Tom Canzone breakout year. That can absolutely happen. We heard a lot about Ty France going to drive line. He had a few knocks in the first series. He had a few hits, and we saw some of the results early. Hopefully, we see some power. Like, there was a lot of talk about a lot of different offensive players. There was not a lot of Josh Rojas talk for a guy that actually played pretty well once he got over here last year, and he's off to a good start this year. He put up 3 wins back in 2022 in Arizona. This is a good player. Who's to say we need a third baseman?
Sure. Okay. When I think slept on, I think exceeding past. I think Josh would like meet past expectations. No, I think that's what I was thinking on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if Josh Rojas is going to put up a 2.5 win season at third base, if not better, you take that every day.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to hit 5 home runs. He just has to get on base. He has to turn the lineup over. He has to play average defense at third base, and you're getting a quality player.
Well, who should start at third? It probably is still best for it to be a mix, but time will tell. Like Josh Rojas did play really well, and because he's a lefty, he's going to start more often than Luis Urias will. Like, that's a fact. And you know what? Based on how they've hit at the plate and the small sample size, Rojas probably should. But it's a long season.
Yeah. Like, if people are looking for overreaction takeaways, like, I don't think the two of us really have any. If you want one that's even slightly down that path, I will say, again, I'm not asking for roster moves. I'm not claiming for any roster moves, nothing. However, Urias has got to hit his target when making throws across the diamond.
Yeah.
We saw a couple of throws this week that were offline. Shout out to Ty France for an amazing kick out of the dirt. But, like, again, like, if you want one little takeaway, it's like, okay, something's got to change really fast with this. Like, Urias has to hit his target when thrown across the diamond because third base balls get hit there all the time. So,
yeah. Thoughts on Teo, Kelnick, and Suarez tearing it up so far to start the season? Hey,
my guy.
Awesome.
Okay.
It's awesome to see. And at least 2 of them will be back at T-Mobile Park within a month. So that should be interesting experiment.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think we did it on the last stream, and all I'll say about it again, because we don't have to have a whole discourse about it again. I think the ovations from the crowd or the reception from the crowd will be very polar opposite for those 2 guys. So we'll talk about that when they actually get here and play later in the month. Look, Teoscar Hernandez, he hit a few home runs. He was going to the Dodgers. We figured he was going to kind of bounce back. I'm not shocked he's got a few home runs early in the year. He's also still striking out a lot. Already through 4 games, he's striking out a lot. So for everybody that's saying, like, oh, like, we should have had Teo back, and do you miss Teoscar Hernandez yet? Well, the Mariners were trying to get a different identity offensively entering 2024. Teoscar Hernandez and his profile doesn't fit that. Because in the bit of Dodgers baseball I've watched for the first 4 games, like, he's still chasing a lot of sliders low and away. So, yes, he has a few home runs. However, I don't think he fit the Mariners' new offensive philosophy.
Here's a take from Ryan in the YouTube comments. Offense/lineup reminds me of 2 years ago thus far. Well, that team did make the playoffs, so that would be okay. Like, that'd be enough. And I believe that unit was also, like, pretty decent at scoring runs.
But that unit also struck out a lot too.
Yeah.
So 2022 and 2023, those offenses struck out a lot. They are trying to get away from that in 2024. And look, again, through the first 4 games, we're not saying all year, through the first 4 games, yes, they've struck out a lot. I don't think that's going to continue all year. I think they're going to get it cleaned up as time moves along. Maybe it's as soon as this week against Cleveland. But, yeah, I think this offense has a bit of a different identity. I think the lineup is longer. You don't have as many. Even that 2022 lineup, there were pieces of that lineup where you get there and you felt like it was a pocket you weren't all that confident with. I don't really feel that way about this lineup. If everybody's hitting the way they're capable of hitting, it's a deep lineup. If Josh Rojas is your 9 hitter and he's hitting like that, it's a great sign. So I'm not going to make any comparisons through 4 games about certain years' offense versus another year's offense. I will say I do think this team is much different and their identity is much different at the plate, but it just didn't really get displayed in the first 4 games. Let's see what other comments we got.
Most likely team for the M's to get into a brawl with this year. I don't know if that's changed. Probably the Astros.
I was going to say, I think that answer is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I think there is still bad blood between those two teams. I'm not saying there's going to be a brawl between the Mariners and the Astros, but if you had to pick one, like, now all it takes is one little chain reaction to set something off. You could not have paid me enough money to get me to say the Brewers and the Mets were going to get into a fight this weekend, because what do those two teams have in common? Other than the Mets don't love Reese Hoskins, so I guess there's that element to it. But one little event can set something off, like we've seen. But if you were going to pick a most likely team, yeah, I think it would have to be Houston. Let's see what else we got. People are talking about arbitration eligible guys and guys on this team ready for extensions. Again, we don't really know what's going to happen with extensions. We don't know if they'll happen at all. And when they happen, they probably just kind of pop up out of the blue, because the Mariners are not teams that let information leak out. Things happen. They just kind of happen. We've seen it with free agent signings. We've seen it with trades. We've seen it with all that stuff. So I would love to see George Kirby or Logan Gilbert or Cal Raleigh, or magically all three of them, if that somehow happened, to all get extended. But I don't think there's going to be any inklings about it in the public until it's signed, sealed, and delivered.
And we know they're all going to be expensive. That's going to be a fact. They're all going to be expensive. And frankly, for the amount of money the Mariners are committing to the major league roster right now, you probably can't afford all of them, unfortunately. So there are some guys that are probably not getting signed. It stinks.
We've said of the three, it feels like Logan Gilbert would be the most likely. We'll see. We hope it's more. Of the three, I would think Logan's the most likely.
Yeah, it seems like it, but I feel like we heard a little bit that Cal, even though his agent is Scott Boras, that couldn't like in terms of want to stay. It could be Cal.
Well, maybe
but we won't know. Like, especially with Scott, we won't know until pen hits paper. And we also know that the Mariners have Harry Ford in the system, and Cal, by the time Harry is, in a sort of matures into Major League Baseball, Cal might not be a catcher anymore, or not as much.
I don't want to say that, but
maybe not out of catching, but it's like, you think about it, the Mariners this way, and the financial commitments they have. It's like a 30-year-old Cal Raleigh or a 24-year-old Harry Ford behind the plate.
I see what you
like that. That's kind of what I mean. And you and I know what the answer to that question would be. They pick Harry, even if Cal was good. You don't like that. Smart roster building decisions aren't built on long-term extensions for 30-year-old catchers.
But if
that's how the market is spoken on that.
Sure, but if he was to sign now and you bought out a couple of his free agent years, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think you do it in his last year of arbitration before entering free agency. But if you get it done early, you get it done this year or even next year, then I think it makes sense. And Harry Ford can play other positions. So if they were to extend Cal, and then then that's a good problem to have. If Cal Raleigh's still that good and Harry Ford ends up being that good, then move Harry Ford somewhere else. He can play second base. He can play the outfield. They figure it out. If those guys are both going to hit that well, that's a good problem to have. But yeah, I mean, the way Scott Boras' offseason's gone, maybe he would start letting his guys take extensions. I mean, certainly didn't work in free agency this year. So, I'd be, as much as I am not a Scott Boras fan, I will say, if the Mariners got an extension done with Cal Raleigh, I don't know if he ever agreed to come on this podcast, but I have seen him go on some other podcasts before. I'd actually be curious to get him on, because I'd be so fascinated of what went into a Scott Boras hometown extension, like for a client before hitting free agency. So if that actually ever happened, maybe we'd try to work some magic and get him on or something, because I would genuinely be curious. So, all right, let's keep scrolling through. What else we got? Could move Raleigh to first. That's what somebody said. Yeah, that's another option too. Like, you could have Harry play catcher, Cal could go play first. You keep them both around. Like, yeah, for sure. So yeah, shout out to Jay Malty on that one.
Let's see. We had a horrible representation on offense hitting high spin pitches. How do we not send a blueprint across the league hitting those pitches?
Probably this team. They're going to have to hit spin. So
Yeah.
And they will. Again, it's been 4 games. I know we have to keep reiterating that, but they are going to have to hit breaking balls. They're going to have to hit off-speed pitches. Otherwise, the blueprint is this is exactly how you attack this offense to get them out. So, yeah, they'll just have to make some adjustments.
I will say there was one thing I was really pleased about this weekend, even though it wasn't the overwhelmingly positive results early. Like Jorge Polanco looks like the perfect fit in the middle of the lineup. Perfect. What they needed.
Yeah. He had a couple of bats today where it seemed like he got a little bit impatient and it was kind of a one pitch out. But yeah, like he squared a couple balls up very hard. He doesn't seem phased. That feels like an acquisition that is very much going to work out. It's like you said. We posted a social media clip about this a few days ago. Jorge Polanco goes out and puts out like a 775 OPS for the year, which we are not expecting. We expect greater things from him, and we're not saying he's going to do that. We're saying if that were the case, which would be close to a career low for him in terms of the season, that would still blow the production out of the water of any second base production they've had over the last few years. So, yeah, this seems like a very seamless fit.
Yeah, I agree. They need Garver back though. Like it just like you need the complement of those two.
Mhm.
Like I can't underestimate how big that miss is. Like
And he
pretty
shouldn't
big.
be out that long.
No, he shouldn't. Hopefully he's back tomorrow.
Right. So, yeah, wasn't serious. I'm sure most of you saw. For those of you who didn't, back spasms. He's day to day. They thought there was a chance he'd be back in the lineup today on Sunday. Didn't happen. We'll see. Like, I hope it's tomorrow. I think it seems like it's trending toward tomorrow. If it's not, I would have to assume at some point in this Guardian series he'll be back in there.
Did you know, is Anthony Rendon on an offer? How long are we, there's a
Oh
question here in the
no.
YouTube chat. How long are we hoping Rendon's offer lasts? Is he on an offer right now?
Let's check.
Does
Let's
anyone know
see.
that?
I'm gonna check as we're talking right now.
Okay.
Well, he's hitting lead. Well, okay, his first 3 games he was 0 for 11. Oh wait, sorry. He didn't play on Friday. So, yeah, he's 0 for 11 right now because he went 0 for 4 today. Well, is he gonna go full early, rookie year Kelnick mode and go over 41?
Well, I don't think he'll match Chris Davis's offer, but it could happen. I mean, no, not that far, but I wouldn't be
Can
shocked. I don't think Anthony Rendon's going to be losing sleep over like an over 21.
can you imagine the discourse if Anthony Rendon puts together a Chris Davis streak to start the year, the 0 for 54? Because Chris Davis had a bad start that year, but he was very well liked. Anthony Rendon starts like this, especially after his shorten the season comments this year. Oh, Twitter's going to be either a cesspool or a gold mine. It depends on how you view it for Anthony Rendon discourse.
I just remember that, Chris Davis was like in such a down mood during that. I don't think Anthony Rendon would be. I don't think he'd have a problem with it.
He doesn't like baseball, so probably not.
But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't change his mood that he already is in, which is not great.
Well, at least he's on a really good team that's going to have an awesome season.
What an opening series for them. And Mike Trout continues to say that I'm not asking for a trade.
Just ask for a trade, please. I don't think there would be one person outside of Orange County that would fault you in any way, shape, or form for asking a trade. There might be people in Orange County who said, you know what? It's for the best.
Yeah.
Just hand the trade. All right. Here, we got one from Ryder. What do you guys think Mitch Haniger's stats will be? I'm assuming this means for the year. If you want a positive takeaway, he had a good first weekend. You look great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looked pretty good. Depending on the amount of games, let's say Mitch Haniger plays 120 games. The way he's looked, 25 home runs in 120 games. I don't know what kind of average he's going to be hitting for because I don't know what his strikeout number is going to be looking like, but he looks like he could swat 25 homers and be, I don't know, like a one. We'll see how it is as the season goes along and he's got to deal with sort of the stress of a full season again at an older age, but no, a 110 WRC plus and 25 bombs.
Yeah, I was going to say 115. That feels about right. And that's a really good year for a guy that you're not even assessing as an everyday player, because their plan is not to play Mitch Haniger every day. I know he played all 4 games this weekend. Part of that's because Garver was out. But for a guy that will probably play, between 110, 120 games, like PJ was talking about, probably closer to 120 if he's healthy. Yeah, that'd be a good year. 20 home runs, 110, 115 WRC plus, gets on base, has some pop. I think it'll be about that, and that'd be a great year.
Here's an interesting stat from the YouTube chat. Last year, I don't know if this last year career. I'm going to ask this person to reiterate in the chat because they'll know when I read this of why Polanco's trying to be aggressive. He's a 329 hitter when he swings at the first pitch.
Say that one more time.
Polanco, 329 hitter when he swings at the first pitch.
Well, look, if that works for him, great. But those first pitches he swung at today, all I was referencing was they resulted in some weak contact. So
Yeah.
if he's gonna hit the first pitch and crush it into the gaps, then awesome. Like I'm not telling him to change his approach, but look, he'll be a great fit in this lineup. All I meant was he had a couple of bats today that didn't garner great results.
Another one here in the YouTube chat. This one regarding Taylor Trammell still available. Sign that. Well, he is. This comment is saying sign the dude. He is signed. He's on waivers right now. And Canzone's looked terrible on defense and offense. Defense, I expected him to be terrible. I think this is a little bit of an early overreaction for Dom Canzone. Again, let's make it till June. Let's get to June, and then we can make I think we can make a more fair argument here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel bad for Tram. I feel so bad for him. Such a nice guy. But I don't know whether he's going to stay in the Mariners organization once he clears waivers. If he does clear waivers or not, we'll find out. Stinks for him. Really hope he gets an opportunity.
I hope he gets an opportunity to play big league baseball. If that doesn't happen, yeah, selfishly, I hope he sticks around as a Mariner. Hopefully he goes to Tacoma. If they need him at some point during the year, he can come back up and he stays in the org. We're Taylor Trammell fans forever. He is awesome. So we wish him nothing but success. Hopefully he gets a big league opportunity. Or hopefully one way or another he'll find his path, which I think he will. He needs the chance to play. It's as simple as that. Like he's had some bad luck with injuries. He's been up and down a few times. It's hard to get settled in when you're not playing every day and you move up and down and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll see what happens with him. I would certainly not be worried about Dom Canzone right now. Like again, he's played 3 games and he hasn't, and he got taken out early in a couple of them because they were doing the platoon stuff. Like he hasn't had very many at bats. Let's pump the brakes a little bit before we're talking about Dom Canzone, this and that. I think he's going to be totally fine. I think he is going to have a great year. I've not wavered on that opinion at all. So time, people. All we need is time.
Santos and Brash will be back in May. For those who are curious, it sounded like Brash before. Brash before Santos.
Actually, I don't know about that. I don't know who's going to come first.
Did I get those two mixed up?
I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, in May though, at least.
Probably, yeah. That sounds right. But you know what? Like, they've got some guys out there that actually look pretty sharp this weekend. I know Stanek had some wild command in that one outing, but stuff was clearly there. And Scott Service talked about 1, wasn't overly concerned. 2, likes what he brings. And 3, he hasn't had that many outings because he got to spring training so late. So once he gets more acclimated, he'll get more settled in. But our guy Gabe Spire looked awesome.
Can we take a minute on our guy right here? Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. Like, he was so good last year, and through 2 outings, it looks like he's taken another step forward.
Yeah.
He looked almost untouchable when he was out there. He gave up 1 hit in one of those 2 outings, but he slammed the door in that 7th inning in game 2. And then when he threw yesterday, it was just like good morning, good afternoon, good night with some nasty off-speed stuff.
Yeah.
So shout out Gabe.
That dude, he doesn't, when he's on, there's not much weakness in his profile. Besides the fact he doesn't throw 100. There's no, I think that's it. Off speed when he dials it, his off speed doesn't move like Matt Brash's, but when he can locate it better than almost anybody. So I mean, it almost doesn't matter as much. And he's got multiple. So, and he's lefty. Lefties don't do that. They do not. I know his nickname is the Little Unit, but I'm gonna, as well as the Little Unit, say he is a unicorn, quite literally.
I agree. To get all the first pitch strikes that he gets and all the chase he gets and the results he gets, he doesn't walk out, he gets ground balls. That is, we when was the last time the Mariners had a dominant lefty the way that Gabe looks like he has the potential to be? Well, he already was last year. Let's take another step this year in the
Mhm.
sense of think about it. 2022, you remember how many lefties that bullpen had? Zero. Goose egg. It was all righties. 2021, the big three were Sadler, Sewald, Steckenrider. Like they did not really have a dominant lefty in that bullpen either. It's been a long time since they've really had a dominant left-handed relief pitcher. Maybe Gabe's going to be the first one in a long time.
And we'd be down. Couldn't happen to a better guy.
Like no, it couldn't. Like I'm honestly trying to think about here, like off the top of my head, who the last dominant left-handed reliever was that Mariners had. Like was it? I don't know. Like Charlie Furbush in 2014 was pretty good.
Probably, yeah, that might be as close as you get.
No, a long time.
Yeah, that's a decade ago.
Right. So, like, sign us right up for that, which that would be awesome. Okay, I know we've got a couple more coming in. Oh, somebody said Austin Both was shoving Dig his stuff. Yeah, he looked good. I was pretty impressed with his outings too. Like the stuff looked pretty real when he threw last night.
And eventually he's gonna have to start a game, but at least in a small, like when they shorten it up to an inning, man, it was explosive.
Yeah.
It was good. He's not gonna hold that stuff if they have him throw 5, but over 1, if he can stay available as the long guy, but still when he comes out of the bullpen look like that, that's pretty exciting stuff. Because Chris Flexen wasn't doing that when he was in the bullpen. I think we thought at first when you put him in the bullpen, oh yeah, Flexen's going to get dialed up. Didn't turn out that way. But both, yeah, it was a clear tick up from all of his other outings.
Yeah. Quick one from Ryder. I know he asks, "Are you guys going to be at the game tomorrow?" You won't. I will be. TJ's in Oregon for people that don't know. I'll be there. So yeah, like as always, if you see us, feel free to flag us down. We're always happy to stop and talk, say what's up. So yeah, if you see us, definitely flag us down. Somebody says Rojas needs to start all games from now. Well, again, I think Rojas is gonna have a good year. I think they're also trying to play to his strengths, which is smart. If Urias does not end up being the solution, I'm not saying that yet. Again, like this is all preface with it's only 4 games, but if Urias isn't the solution, you may see more Dylan Moore at third base. Somebody who hits lefties well, can play the infield. So I don't think it's going to be all Josh Rojas all the time. However, I think you're going to see him get more starts because he has proven, at least through the first 4 games and what he did last year and what he's done in Arizona in the past, that he's a really productive player. So yeah.
Starcadian on YouTube asks if I go to any Emeralds or Hops games. I'm like smack right between the two of them. So that would be no. It would be nice to go if I lived closer to one or the other one to do that because I go see the Aqua Sox. That would be a slam dunk. The problem is they're an hour plus each direction, so less convenient than it is. But if I have the opportunity, I'll try.
Well, you could make the trip up when the Aqua Sox are in town this year. Well, oh wait, you don't have any of our field mics. I was gonna say you could make the trip up, get the tripod, do some Aqua Sox content with whoever's going to be there. I mean, maybe if they're aggressive, maybe Colt Emerson starts the year there. Some other guys, but yeah.
Go check in with our guy Cole and see if he rethought any of his high school home run
baseball
decisions.
home runs. Yeah, everybody's underselling those home runs, and there's
except Trim,
which he was smart. And spoiler, we haven't posted this one yet either. And Ty Pete. So yeah. He There we have people in the comments about it. It's being like, yeah, like how dare he tries to be humble. It's like, guys, we're not asking him to say, yeah, I would hit 40 homers in the show. We're asking in junior varsity baseball, a first-round pick using a metal bat facing 68-mile-an-hour pitching. How many home runs do you get? Like the answer should be a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Like Cole Young hit some home runs in high A last year with ease. He should hit home runs with a metal bat in JV baseball. So yeah.
Here's a good question. Is it me or would you guys rather have Tommy Malone out there rather than Hancock? Love his get it done stuff last year when needed. A solid vet.
Well, Tommy Malone made one start last year. He only made one start in the show. I like Emerson Hancock was the number 6 pick in the draft. That's like one of the highest picks. Actually, that's the highest draft pick Depoto's ever made. I know Hancock's had some injuries. I know he hasn't progressed the same way that George Kirby and Logan Gilbert have. We saw Emerson Hancock throwing 97, 98 miles an hour in spring training. And he's young. He's got good stuff. he still has the potential to pan out again. He's made 3 big league starts. It's so early in his baseball career. Yes, I would personally rather have Emerson.
Yeah, I'd also rather have Emerson. Like, can we give him some time? Can we give him a few starts?
Yeah,
We saw 2.25 starts from
right.
Emerson. Like, why don't we get 15 or 20,
Yeah,
please?
yeah,
And with some actual velocity instead of the 90 to 91 he was throwing last year, even if he throws 93, 95 this year, how much better is he going to be when he does that?
exactly. Exactly, like a lot better. And if he flashes some of his off-speed stuff too, that at times has really looked good. So yeah, we can start to wind down. Like we can answer here a couple more questions as we start to wind this thing down. We've been on for a bit. These are fun. Like I said, I've liked doing these through the first few weeks. It's a good chance to interact with people. We can answer people's questions right away. You can send in whatever you have. We're gonna pick at least one,
So
maybe two
here on
more.
YouTube, the guy who asked that question follows up and says, "I don't think Emerson is ready, but basically all we have, he needs help on his secondaries, and his secondaries might not be elite yet, but to be honest, Logan Gilbert's secondaries weren't big league ready when he came up. Do you remember that? Like he's lived all of 2021 on his fastball. That's
Mhm.
it. That's all he did. George Kirby's first year maybe had a tiny bit more value on his off speed, but not that much more. People weren't swinging and missing at his off speed pitches. So if Emerson can come up and survive on velocity alone and work his off speed pitches in, I think that's the best option they have. It's a better option than having Tommy Malone.
I agree. And they do have veteran arms in the minors now. Their new Tommy Malone appears to be Casey Lawrence because he's in Tacoma. He's a veteran arm. He's somebody that if you need somebody to make a spot start in the majors, it'd probably be Casey Lawrence. There are going to be a couple guys ahead of him. You've got Hancock, you've got Levi Stout, but it doesn't have to be Tommy Malone specifically. Like Casey Lawrence can fill that role perfectly fine with 2 much higher upside right-handed young arms ahead of him with Emerson Hancock and Levi Stout, who the Mariners gets now that they have Stout back into the fold. They really liked him before they traded him. So that's another arm with potential.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We got anything else on Instagram here? I'll clean it up here on YouTube a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Positive reviews on Emerson's changeup. Definitely worried about Emerson. Let's see evidence this season before we write him off as a lost cause. Unfortunately, John Stanton's not going to increase the budget to not make it an issue. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I agree. Just want to see Hancock to progress. Just worried about the options on his contract. That's like again another fair argument. Would you rather Emerson pitch in AAA or the big leagues? I would rather him pitch in the big leagues. I don't think sending him to AAA benefits him much at all.
Right.
It's a hitter's ballpark. The offense is going to be high. It's really tough to develop pitching in that environment. So why don't you bring him up to the big leagues where the big league staff can work with him day in and day out in a big ballpark? Yeah, the hitters are better, but the run environment is not as stark.
So what do you do when Brian Wu gets healthy? In that scenario, would you rather have Emerson be the long reliever, do the whole Dustin May, Julio Urias thing? Or would you rather have him go back to Tacoma and really make starts?
I'd probably, based on how this bullpen is, if it's not healthy, I would rather have Hancock out there. At least give him a shot.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then if it doesn't work out, then you're going to use that option anyway and send him back down.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that just about wraps up all the questions. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of good ones through the 40 minutes we've been on here. It's been fun, as always. We're going to keep doing them. Seems like you guys enjoy them, which we're glad to hear. We love answering your guys' questions. And again, let's not lose our cool yet, everybody. It's 4 games. They're going to be fine. They're going to turn things around. We'll see how they look against Cleveland this week. So they'll turn the page at 2-2. Like we said, they're perfectly fine. They held serve. We'll see what they do this upcoming week.
Yeah, and so make sure to go say hi to Lyle at the ballpark. And just a reminder, if you haven't already, hit subscribe, follow us on Instagram. We're here both on Instagram and YouTube. Our link trees in all of our bios. You can follow us wherever you're on social media at Marine Layer Pod.
Yeah.
We're easy to find.
Yeah, TikTok and Instagram too. Or sorry, TikTok and Twitter too. I should say.
Yep.
So yeah.
Come find us. Appreciate you guys again for hanging out with us here on a Sunday night. We will talk to you next week.